All right, so we are back. We have a double professional water cooler chat with another nurse who is involved and steeped into retail, consumer experience, retail and healthcare professional world. And it's a world of consumer insights, or part of it, that I am relatively new to. And so when I'm new to something, I always think about who are the helpers, who, is more familiar than I am, who can I talk to? And Lydell actually mentioned, your name, that yes, you absolutely need to talk to Jennifferre. So thank you so much for joining me. Um, so please introduce yourself.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks so much for having me. So, my name is Jennifferre Mancillas. I am a nurse also. It sounds like you've talked to another nurse earlier today, but co-founder of Lumify, and I've been a nurse now for about the last decade or so. It's gone by really fast, but yeah, happy to be here and chat with you today.
Awesome, awesome. So just earlier, and we won't go too far into it because we had a pretty robust conversation. We were talking about the digital front door. It was a concept that has just like arisen on my radar, like not all that long ago, and it's been around for a while, but it's gotten a new breath of fresh air. The pandemic birthed changes in consumer behavior for everybody, and especially those in healthcare. We got used to Netflix and DoorDash and Uber, and juxtaposed to that, we go into a doctor's office and have to wait and fill out repetitive forms. And there's just certain processes in healthcare that are a little delayed, but there's been like a new energy towards this optimization of the digital experience. And also the retail players that are coming in the industry, literally the Amazons and Walmarts and whatnot. And so when I asked my network, who is savvy to talk about retail and healthcare, and retail and healthcare professionals, and the interplay between all of those worlds, your name came up. So tell us about like why that might have been, that your name was put out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely speak to that. So, Lumify is a nurse led business, and we're really focused on improving the lives of healthcare professionals by giving them better access to the tools and resources they need to go ahead and excel within their profession. And one of the ways, well, that we are doing that right now is kind of bridging the gap that exists. You mentioned the digital front door and this push to go ahead and give patients access to a more consumer experience that they've been able to kind of become accustomed to, especially during the wake of COVID. And I think so many of the times we hear words like, the digital front door or healthcare innovation or health tech, and our minds directly um, go towards patient care and hospital systems. But I think one thing we forget is that there are 22 million healthcare professionals in the US, and it's a large workforce, and that's such a big part of healthcare. And really being able to digitize their experience, because it's been proven that happier healthcare professionals equals happier, healthier patients, aka shorter hospital stays and less money spent. But really understanding that concept and pouring into it, I think, is important. So, what we've been able to do in our time as nurses, we've realized that 85% of healthcare professionals really feel under supported and overwhelmed navigating their professional ecosystems. If you think about a nurse, we are responsible for purchasing our stethoscopes and our shoes and our scrubs, but we're also responsible for maintaining our credentials and our scheduling and our continuing education and everything in between. And up until now, everything has been so siloed within all those spaces. You go here for that and there for this, and it's inefficient and it's archaic. And much of how we learn about new brands as far as retail goes, new brands and products out there to support healthcare professionals, is word of mouth. If you happen to be in the break room or a room with somebody who mentions something, or if you happen to see an ad that goes through Instagram, but being able to create the Lumify hub, platform that unifies all the brands and resources and communities that healthcare professionals love and need to thrive into one centralized location. So that's what we've been able to accomplish within this last few months. And we think we've had about 60 partnerships to date. So Peloton, HelloFresh, Jaanuu Scrubs, Echo, just to name a few. And the list is always growing. But meeting that need was really important for us.
You touched on so many things that I could absolutely have a separate conversation about. First of all, your collaborations. Um, there's a quote that I talk about all the time that says, it's from Reid Hoffman, a guy who, well, he's a co-founder of LinkedIn. He knows a thing or two about collaborations and business. And he says that opportunities do not float like clouds in the sky. They're firmly attached to individuals. So if you're looking for an opportunity, you're really looking for people. And so when you listed some of the brands that you have partnerships with, do tell. I mean, no, don't tell any secret sauce, but did you just wake up having a relationship with Peloton? Um,
Oh,
did
yeah,
did
we
they
woke
just
up.
you're like, oh wow, they're here and they want to do business with me somehow. Tell me a little bit more about how those relationships started.
Yeah, happy to do so. I think that the misconception sometimes is that people aren't willing to help, and that's actually not true. I think some people are just afraid to ask for that help and that ask, and you can get intimidated by a no. But if you're not intimidated by that no, the no's come frequently. So I mean, we've been told no by several different partnerships or people or experiences when you're creating something. It's just part of the gig. But I think just reaching out, it was key. I think a lot of people were understanding of the fact that we were nurses, my co-founder and I, and we were just trying to really create better resources and create access to things that their users were already using, but so fragmented and siloed. But it was a lot of just asking and being honest and genuine and authentic about why we were pursuing this and what the big vision was. And people got on board. And I think it just resonates and makes so much sense because if you think about so many different professions, there are resources or marketplaces or what have you that are built for them. It has not been done for the healthcare professional. You might have some marketplaces that have scrubs or gear, but nothing that's holistic, nothing that's going to say, hey, the last thing you want to do after a string of 3 shifts is go home and to figure out what's for dinner. Well, thank you, HelloFresh. So you don't have to really kind of process that. And wellness is so important in making sure that we brought on something like Peloton. We're very thoughtful about what we need as healthcare professionals because we are nurses and healthcare professionals. We understand what those pain points are and wanting to find comfort, not just in a pair of scrubs, although we have amazing scrub brands on the Lumify Hub, but also be really well-rounded with mental health resources and reaching out to those partners as well. But like you said, I think it's so true. Much of your success and the opportunities that you have are just people and really leaning into your resources and not being afraid of the no and just moving forward with the ask is important.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you so much for sharing that. And for those who are joining, do a little bit of a reset. We're talking about digital frontier and retail and nurses and healthcare professionals and how they're all connected because we're all part of a ecosystem. Nurses don't live their life in isolation, separate from everyone else. And hold on one second. Of course, that happens. Um, we don't live our life in that isolation of other people, other needs and stuff that we have. And I've jokingly said that Starbucks should offer scholarships to nurses just because just different brands. I mean, we're like huge supporters of theirs, and we're millions strong, not just nurses but healthcare professionals. And like you said, why not just bring everything to one platform, and we just go there. And we're talking about the digital front door, and there is no like set definition, but a concept that I have used is it's a holistic conversation that covers from symptom checking all the way to I have a symptom, now what, to frictionless payments and all of the micro moments in between. And then, of course, sometimes, well, oftentimes I'm noticing when a lot of that digital front door conversation doesn't talk about the other side of the door where there's healthcare professionals. And I love, love, love that you are addressing that because, yes, part of the reason, well, I can't say part of the reason, but once you're inside, when you're inside offering support to the outside, you're in the caregiving space, it's not easy because I literally have a lot of some of my CEUs that I've done printed out on paper, and if I were to move someplace else, will that paper still matter? If I move to a different state, that they care that I took the COVID, whatever, whatever for this, will that satisfy their needs? And, and also my license, I'm in the state of, not the state, but in Washington, D.C., I have certain requirements for my license. If I were to go somewhere else, would they honor that I've met? So it's just super, super interesting. So I kind of talked about it, but what problem did you notice when it comes to having a more connected wellness experience on both sides of the front door? What problem would you say that you've noticed and you co-founded your company to address?
Absolutely. I think our um, initial problem that we were trying to solve was actually very simple. And I think that many healthcare professionals who worked clinically can actually really empathize with this is that 85% of healthcare professionals or 87% of healthcare professionals caring for patients said they struggled to see when they were doing so in limited light or darkened environments. And so we thought we could do a whole lot better than the pen lights and the flashlights and our cell phones that we were trying to use to do simple interventions in a patient's room and keep them asleep. So we created the Unite Light. It's a wearable hands-free LED device for healthcare professionals to illuminate their workspace, but in a non-disruptive way to lessen sleep disruptions. And that was phenomenally successful, more so than we thought. We launched in February of this year, and it was really embraced and adopted very quickly from the healthcare community, especially nurses. And I think that was in large attribute to the fact that we were nurses and we understood the pain points so well so that we could solve for it very easily. But in our build of and getting that to market and really having conversations with literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different healthcare professionals across the board from state to state, this overwhelming theme came up that there was just a lack of access to know about tools like this, to know about resources like this. And that was our personal experience also. And I think mentioned a bit ago that so much of our interaction and what we learn about new resources and tools and brands that are out there to support us are just word of mouth, and really wanting to kind of bridge that gap and solve for that pain point. And so we did. So it was very much the launch of the Unite Light, but everything kind of picked up pace, and we did a little bit of a pivot. And well, we don't call it a pivot; we call it an expansion, because definitely it's the same mission of improving patient care and ultimately through empowering healthcare professionals and providing resources to them. So it's definitely been a journey, but that was the catalyst of it all.
Super interesting. I mean, this conversation related to the digital front door. I mean, there's so many aspects to it. So this is a different aspect that I hadn't
Definitely.
talked to someone about. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, and yeah, and it's so interesting. I feel like when you have like a story and a mission, you can draw other people to that mission and you have that and you can lead with that. And storytelling is also super important. And it's an awesome story that you're telling. And where can people like see like what, partnerships you guys have or that might be your entire marketplace, different logos, or you can search through. Where can more people see like who you're connected with. And yeah,
Happy to share that,
yeah.
Amelia. So if you go
Mhm.
to lumifyhub.com, you can create a profile as a healthcare professional, and then you're able to kind of peruse the brands that are up right now. There's exclusive discounts and some transparent reviews from your peers that have used those products and have given their opinions on them. And so it's really interesting to kind of read through people who have used those brands and used those services before, but lumifyhub.com, and that will be able to kind of get you access to the hub and all of the offerings. And inside scoop to all who are listening, we're actually in the middle of creating an app version of that. So more
Mm,
to come on that, but that's going to be
awesome.
really fun and around the bend.
Awesome, awesome. That is so much work. I just applaud you for all of that. And just to give some context to that, I didn't really introduce myself, but I'm Amelia. And I only recently started interesting project in consumer insights and expert consumer. I had my Amazon profile or started on Amazon in 2002. So just about, oh my goodness, 20 years in the e-commerce game. And I noticed that other organizations, retail, CPG, food and beverage, they invest in consumer insights on a level that healthcare doesn't really do just yet. I mean, they're
Mhm.
starting to, but I just really noticed that that healthcare is wanting to keep up with paying more attention, but they needed to have tools. And I came across a company that has a on-demand panel of over 1 million U.S. consumers that allow organizations to ask questions to launch questions, to go back and retarget. And as I'm learning about that, I realize there's a healthcare side of retail that I'm unfamiliar with. And so that's what question I put out to the group, and that's how we're talking. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to update this description situation with the link to the resources, but what's the best way people can connect with you and stay up to date with the fast moving expansions that's happening with your company?
Yeah, please follow us at Lumify Care on our socials to see all the new brands that we have continuously launching within the hub, and for new news for Lumify. And then you can always get a hold of me at Jennifferre@lumify.com, Jennifferre@lumifycare.com. But yeah, looking forward to being able to connect with you.
Awesome. Same. All right, you guys take care. And as always, I say that I screen all of my guests for approachability. That means if you have a question for Jennifferre, feel free to reach out to her directly. If you have a question for me, same. And yep, look forward to staying connected. Thank you so much again.